What's up, model makers? It's time for a quick product review. Uh, Not too long ago, I decided that I wanted to get some more 3D printed parts. I'm doing the Mini Art Caterpillar D7 bulldozer, and I decided that I wanted to add a coil of rusty chain just kind of sitting on one of the fenders. And I got some nice chain, but no hooks, and it totally baffled me that no one was making any resin chain hooks in 1/35th scale, because I know how you armor guys love you some chains. So I posted the question on Scale Modelers Critique Group, and Matt McDougall, who is like a one-man encyclopedia of where to get stuff, told me about a guy who had uploaded chains and hooks in 1/35th scale to shapeways. Now, you guys have heard me talk about shapeways before. They are a sort of consumer 3D printing service, and with shapeways, you can create your own designs and upload them and have them built. But one of the things that they do that's pretty cool is they allow people to basically host their own libraries of designs that they've created and sell those. And of course, then Shapeways takes a little bit of a cut. And so you can go on there and you can surf through all of the different designers' work and find things that you like or need or whatever. And there's quite a few things on there for scale model makers. And as Matt informed me, there was a guy who had done some 1/35th scale hooks. So it was pretty cool. I just ordered a set of them. It was about $8.50 plus shipping. It took about 3 weeks, so it was a little bit longer than I was hoping for. Last time I ordered from Shapeways, I ordered parts that I produced myself, which I'll show you actually here in a minute. And I literally had them in 2 days. So I was a little surprised that it took as long as it did, but no harm, no foul. I wasn't in a big hurry anyway. So anyway, I have the parts, and this is what they look like. Now, even if the camera will focus, yeah, there it goes, you're not going to be able to see these very well, but fear not. Part of the reason you can't see them very well is because they're so damn tiny, obviously, but also because these are done in Shapeways Extreme Detail material, which is just white. So you're not going to be able to see, we're not going to be able to evaluate the surface quality. So what I'm going to do before we take a close look at these is I'm going to spray a layer of Stynylrez primer on them in my custom rust mix, because that's what they're going to need anyway, and then we'll take a closer look at them. So we'll have a look. Okay, so as promised, I've dumped a little bit of Stynylrez primer on this set of parts, and we will have a closer look. I haven't even looked at these things yet through my Optivisor, so we'll both be seeing this at the same time. Well, sort of. Not exactly live, but, kind of close. Okay, so, as I expected, when you get a little bit of, whoops, let's try and keep it in the frame there. When you get a little bit of paint on there, you can instantly see whatever surface texture there is. And I've got this in pretty good light, so that also helps. You can see that on the surfaces that we're looking at there's a little bit of grain. Flipping it over. Now you can see, I hope you can see anyway. Let's see what happens when we try to zoom in. There we go. Hopefully you can see there some of the build striations from the layers. They're not too bad. I mean, on a part like this, you really don't care. I mean, as long as they're not just, grotesquely covered with with those layer lines, then it shouldn't be too big of a deal. There's actually 3 kinds of parts on this little sprue, if you want to call it that. There's the hooks themselves, which you can easily see there. Then there's a couple of hawsers, one on each end, which, that's what those 2 rollers are. That's pretty good. And then there's also stuck in between there, which are not as easy to see, some looped cable ends with with what would be a steel sheath on the inside of the loop. So it's pretty good. I mean, you get a half dozen hooks, 2 hawsers, and 7 of the little cable ends, which you could add to a piece of lead wire or whatever your favorite way to create cables are. So in looking at these again, I think let's see, this is a good view. This will give you a good view of the surface texture there. Hopefully the camera's focusing in on that. It's really not too bad. I mean, obviously, we're talking about something that is super tiny. What I should make clear is that this is Shapeways, what they call their extreme detail material. And I expect that that's part of the reason why it took as long as it did for the parts to get produced. Because they have this pretty cool thing on their website where you can allegedly watch the progress. I mean, all it does is give you updates and tells you what phase of the process it's in, building, preparing, whatever. And it was literally in building for like 2 weeks, which obviously is not true. But what I suspect was happening is that they were gathering up enough parts that needed to run in that material to make it more economical for them. And that was, they called that building when in fact it wasn't really. But let's take a look at some other Shapeways parts. This is a project that I started about a year or year and a half ago, and it's the only project since my return to scale modeling that I've abandoned. This is from a Revell DT1 Yamaha dirt bike kit, and this kit's from the late 60s, and what you see here isn't super horrible. I mean, I did some detail work and tried to really make it good. But when I started working on the wheels, I just couldn't see how, with my skill level at the time, I was going to get them where I wanted them to be. So I blew it off. But anyway, you can see my scratch-built shock absorbers on the back end, where I wound my own springs and created the shafts and so forth. Anyway, I designed the upper and lower end of the shocks on using a CAD program and had them made at Shapeways, and these were produced in what they call their frosted detail material. If you take a look here, you can see the level of hopefully I can get this to focus on the right one. You can see kind of the level of surface finish there. You can see the build layer lines there real clearly. And something else to kind of take note of is that if we flip this part over, you will see what is one of the characteristics of all of these 3D printing technologies. Look at the opposite side of that, and you can see that it looks quite a bit smoother. Now, the reason that is because that is what you're looking at right there is the downward facing surface. And just because of the nature of the process, the downward facing surfaces on these parts are always going to be smoother. You won't see the layer lines as heavily. Now, the ideal way to have built these parts would have been straight up and down so that the axis of the cylinders was vertical. And I actually requested that they do that at Shapeways, and they totally blew me off. I requested that because I knew from my own background in 3D printing that that would result in parts that were pretty much truly round. And while I would have had build layer lines running up and down the length of this thing, I would not have had the lengthwise lines that are there on one side and not the other that I had with this, because they were built laying down like that horizontally. And that's one of the things that turned me off of Shapeways, is the fact that they just totally ignored me. And when I had the parts built at Reed Oak in France, he ignored me as well. But when we talked about it later, he told me that he actually just didn't respond, but he did consider it, and he felt like what he wanted to do was going to be better based on his own knowledge of his equipment and his technology. And I could respect that. But just to revisit the parts that he built for me, this again is, take a look at the surface finish that I've gotten here. I really feel like that this is a better surface finish and crisper detail than I got from the so-called extreme detail material from Shapeways. And what's absolutely certain is that this material is much sturdier than either the frosted or the extreme detail material from Shapeways. So again, that's not going to be an issue because of the nature of these little parts and what they're going to be used for. But it's something to consider for just for future projects. So there you go. That's what we got. Okay, there you go. That's a quick look at some 3D custom printed parts from Shapeways. I think you have to agree that they are pretty damn cool. And I love it because I was able to solve a problem that I had at a very low cost and relatively painlessly. Just a few mouse clicks and some PayPal, and I was on my way. So I think it's a high value solution. I think I'll probably still stick to Reed Oak in France when I want to do my own custom detailed custom 3D printed parts, because I still believe his surface finish and the strength of his parts, because of the material that he uses, is superior. But this definitely gives me another option that I think is pretty compelling, and maybe it'll work for you guys too. All right, I appreciate you watching as always. Much love.